Hello and welcome to Friends of the Show podcast. I am your host, Stephen W. Skinner, and this is my podcast where I get together with a friend and we chat. I ask them to share a story, some funny tweets, and then answer questions asked by listeners, just like you, submitted via Twitter. So be sure to follow FOTS Pod online and submit a question and hear it read on a future show. This week's guest is the lovely Bex at Vexed on Twitter. We have a great chat. She talks about Reggae Dance Champion, and we just have a jolly good time. So please enjoy Friends of the Show Episode 4 with Vexed.
Chaos is found in greatest abundance wherever order is sought. It always defeats order, because it is better organised.
All right, welcome to Friends of the Show. Our episode today features Vexedora at Vexedora on Twitter. Some call her Rebecca, some call her Lady Margaret, others call her Her Excellency Henrietta Sophia Uxbridge von Sideborg. Some call her Layla. She's known to a few as She with the Wind in Her Eyes. Some use the moniker Florence Riverdale, but I will simply call her Bex today. Bex, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was quite the intro, right?
It was.
That you go by many names. You're known by
many names.
Yeah.
True.
So that quote was very nice. Do you want to tell us about it, like who it was and why you chose it?
Yeah, that's a Terry Pratchett quote from a book called Interesting Times, in which may you live in interesting times is actually a curse. Chose it because Terry Pratchett's one of my favourite ever authors. He's just so funny. Because I'm an executive assistant, so my job is to try and organise things.
Right.
And so I come up against this quite a lot. Although I'm paid to organise everything, it normally ends up just being total chaos. So.
Right, so it has meaning to you in your work life.
Yes, definitely.
This is crazy. Oh, cool. So thank you for that, providing that quote. So as the listeners might be able to have determined by now, Bex is a lovely and charming English woman from London in the United Kingdom, formerly of the European Union, I guess.
Technically, we're still in at the moment.
Okay, we're just under the wire, so soon to be formerly of the European Union. I know that's sad. I'm sorry to bring up politics, but
yeah.
I've known her for a while. We met through a lovely DM on Twitter, and she's just a great person to know and fun-loving and loves life, and it's great to have her on the show. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Bex, so let's get right into it. You have a story for us, and it's got a great title. So the story is called Reggae Dance Champion and a Glass of Raymond.
Yes. It's kind of... it's quite a broad story, and it's because I was trying to think of what I could say and the kind of prompts that you gave, like about maybe a challenge that I'd faced. And I think for probably the majority of my adult life was a challenge for me, although I didn't realise it at the time. And these two things, the reggae dance and the glass of Raymond, actually represent two men who are no longer in my life, and in their own ways made me realise I wasn't necessarily living the way I wanted to.
Right. Not living your best life.
Yeah. And they're not something I normally talk about, especially through Twitter. So a lot of my Twitter will be, I put stories on there about dodgy dates I've had and all this sorts of stuff. But there are other bits in there that I don't put in. So the reggae dance champion bit. So my father, who died when I was 21, he was the dance champion of a town called Reading in 1976, the reggae dance champion. And he used to say this all the time. Like it was a famous dad quote, to the point that when my mother sat me and my brother down and said, was there anything we wanted her to put in the eulogy for the priest to read at his funeral. Me and my brother looked at each other, looked back at my mum, and both said in unison, "Reggae dance champion of Reading, 1976." My mum went, "Really?" Yes.
That's what
so
he
it got in
wanted. There. Wow, that's awesome. So did he ever show you his moves? Just
oh yeah, all the time.
And
me and my brother are expert dad dancers as a result.
That's awesome. So you inherited the reggae dance gene.
We did. But my dad was always someone who taught us that you could do whatever you wanted to do in life, and as long as you were happy, it was fine. It didn't matter what anyone else thought about it. As long as you were happy with it,
that's lovely.
Then that's all that mattered.
Perfect dad advice. Sounds like a lovely gentleman.
Yeah, he was. But it's something that kind of fell by the wayside for me a bit in my 20s while I tried to look after everyone else. And I was married in my 20s.
Right.
So towards the end of my 20s. So when I started on Twitter, I was separated, which was before I turned 30. So, which is quite a lot to happen in your 20s.
Yeah.
But that's the second story. So I married a guy who, he was very sweet. He was quite introverted and actually wasn't truthful with me because of that. He was very, very good at three things. So he was very, very good at his job, which is great. And it was in kind of a health profession, like a physiotherapist he was really. So, that's great. Really knew what he was doing with that. He was very, very good at knowing stuff about football.
Well, he's an English gentleman, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think that.
And he was very good at remembering plot lines of Simpsons episodes.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of like an American gentleman thing, but yeah.
Yeah, but those are the three things. So he couldn't remember anything about me, and like what I liked and stuff like that.
Right, one of those.
And I was going to say the glass of Raymond is something that me and my mum kind of have taken from that relationship, which is I don't know. Do you guys know the TV chef? There's a guy called Raymond Blanc.
No, but maybe the listeners for sure would. Give him a quick
Hopefully,
Google.
This won't make much sense otherwise. Anyway, there's a famous TV chef called Raymond Blanc he's French, I think, originally, but he does a lot of TV in the UK. And I'm sat on the sofa with my ex watching an episode of a sitcom, and Raymond Blanc comes on, and it's got a laughter track, so kind of everyone cheers. And he looks at me and he goes, "Well, who's that?" And I'm like, "It's Raymond Blanc." And he goes, "Well, yeah, but who's he?" And I'm like, "Well, he's a famous, like, a TV chef." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then later in the show, he comes back on again, and my ex looks at it and he goes, "Oh, is he the wine guy?" And I went, No, he's a chef. He's a famous chef." And my ex said, "Oh, no, that's Sauvignon Blanc, isn't it?"
Oh no. I hope he was joking.
Oh no, he genuinely wasn't joking.
Oh no.
So you have moments like that, and you're just like, this is not a conversation I expected to be having with my husband. But Mum and I now she'll go, "Oh, I've got a bottle of Raymond in the fridge if you."
Got it. Referring to Sauvignon Blanc.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I mean, for many other reasons as well, in that relationship, I realised that wasn't the person I should be with, and it wasn't the life I wanted to lead. And I tried very, very hard, I think, to be a good wife, kind of even before we got married. And I think that probably wasn't the best thing to do. But it became apparent that he wanted me to be this kind of quiet, submissive person, as like his mother was. And I'm not that person at all. And I think because he had this completely opposite view of how I should be from how I actually was, it kind of gave me a bit of a kick. And then kind of in the end, I mean, I took him to marriage counselling because I didn't want to be the woman who just, ran out and he didn't understand why.
Yeah, so we gave it a shot.
Yeah, but in the end I left, and I'd only been married, I think about a year and a month before it was officially done.
Right, yeah.
And which was a big thing, because you have to swallow your pride and go, well, yeah, I did this massive thing a year ago, but actually, no, it was a big mistake. And rather than kind of sit here and try and live with it and not be happy, just because I feel like I'm going to be judged for it, or, people and go, well, why the hell did you marry in the first place? Yeah. I'm just going to change it, and I'm going to make my life better, and I'm going to do what my dad told me to do, and just, do the best thing that makes me happy.
Yes, I think that is the right play here.
Yeah,
it was.
And I've kind of, there's lots of other things behind that which are why I'm very into kind of body positivity and stuff at the moment as well, because I didn't have a very high self-esteem in my mid-20s either, which was why when someone was interested in me, I was like, oh, okay, I better marry him then.
Right.
But I've come across quite a few people through talking and things about this who have been in similar situations, and I know a few people through work actually now who they're in long-term relationships that they're not happy in, but don't feel they can leave because, well, isn't it, one of them has actually said, well, yeah, but everyone's going to say, well, why did you stay so long? I'm like, well, yeah, they will, but that's not a reason to not leave.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
it's
I'm kind of...
Yeah, today's the first day of the rest of your life, but when is that day? It can be today or it can be whenever.
Exactly. So I'm very much in favour of trying to get people to realise what they want and that it's okay to want to do something that makes you happy, rather than just going along with what you feel you should do.
Yes, that's great. And I hope that any people listening who are maybe in a similar situation, then maybe they take your advice on this one.
Well, I hope so. I mean, and it's hard, and I've said most things in life worth doing aren't easy anyway. So yeah, I just say if you're not, and that the other thing I always say is if you're not happy with how your life is, then you're the only one that's going to change it. No one else is going to kind of turn up and suddenly everything's going to be better.
That's right. Yeah. So hear that, everybody? Get motivated. You can change your life. It starts today. Well, thank you. Thank you for those lovely stories. Reggae dance champion, your father sounds like a lovely gentleman, rest in peace. And the husband, I'm glad you moved on to bigger and better things, living your best life. You're out there in the city of London, right?
Yes. Well, and the rest of the world.
You're having a great time.
I never really went abroad.
You're a world traveler. We will get to that. There is a question about that later coming up.
Oh.
That's a tease for you listeners out there. I always tease something and then mention that it's a tease. Okay, you do some funny tweets on Twitter. You also do other writing. You do poems and more long-form stuff, which is great.
Yeah, that is actually something that, as I said, I joined Twitter after I left my ex. Actually, Twitter's been a big helping getting my creativity back, because I didn't write for about 10 years. And then started doing Twitter, and that's led into some longer form things. And I did a course last year as well to try and, get better.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Yeah, there are a few little stories and things.
Yeah, writing's great, and I hope that you do continue it because I do enjoy reading it. So the first tweet submitted is one of my favorite of your tweets also, and it is like this. Judith, fetch my evil plan glasses. 2 hours later has organized a small festival. Dammit, Judith, these are my party planning glasses. I love that one.
Okay, that's the better voice than I've ever imagined it in. That's.
Oh yeah, you got to act them out, because sometimes reading these action tweets is a little bit difficult. I'm still figuring that out. That reading tweets isn't the best segment on a podcast, but we're working with it. So, do you want to tell us about that? How that came to be?
That was a very strange one. I just had in my drafts for ages a draft that just said, Judith, fetch my evil plan glasses.
Yeah, so
and I didn't know why. So, and in the end, I shared it with my friend Paul, who's at Death Buddy.
Okay.
On Twitter. And we kind of looked at it and worked out what it could be. And then it ended up being that. And that's why if you click on the tweet, there's like a whole chain after that, which I think starts with a reply from Paul of pictures of dogs wearing strange glasses. That's just... But it's my favourite because I just love that it's completely nonsensical.
It's great.
Yeah, and that it was sat there for so long with me going, I just for some reason really wanted to use that line.
Yeah, you didn't give up on it. Sometimes things go into the drafts folder and they never emerge. So it's great to see when something that was super weird got even weirder and was great.
I wrote a 700-word story based on that first line for my writing course as well, which was
is that available on any website or anything?
No, not at the moment. I've got it in a Word document somewhere, which which I think I might have sent to someone. But it's around somewhere.
All right,
it's really bizarre.
If you ever put it up, send me the link and we'll put it in the show notes. Everyone, check it out. Okay. Okay, so the next one, also a little bit of an action one. So imagine it's you here. Burning my mouth on pizza. Why does everything I love hurt me? Because it's the pizza that you love and it burned you. So I think it's great. It's
I do love
pizza. I mean, is the best. I will go on the record and say pizza is very good.
That's because it was probably the first thing I wrote that actually got big or even got liked by like more than 5 people.
First tweet that got some heat.
Yes, exactly. And it was, because I think that was in November or December 2015, which is when I was in my first kind of group DM, which was through Upside Down Trash. Through
yes, friend of the show, Will.
Yeah. And him and some of the other bigger accounts in that room were kind of egging us smaller accounts on and, teaching us how you got your tweets seen by people.
Yes,
and about replying to calls, because I'd never considered doing that before. And that one just happened to go quite large. And that was, I didn't know what a format was then, but I genuinely did burn my mouth on pizza quite a lot, and so that was just like an observation.
It really came from real life. It was based in truth, and that's why it struck a chord with everyone, because it's happened to us all, right? That's what everyone should think of when they burn their mouth on pizza. All right. So, and then the third one that you sent is also good, but sort of from showcases your writing a little bit more. So this one go like that. Vexed. The creator sits on the floor of the universe, Earth's blueprint spread across it, and contemplates the 3 leftover screws in his palm. It's a classic, like, you're finished putting your IKEA furniture together, and what is this? Forgot a thing. Mm-hmm. And it's funny to think of it on such a scale.
I just kind of like the idea of him some sort of creator sat cross-legged on the floor of, the universe, looking at the plans and looking at these 3 screws and not really paying attention to the fact that, everything's gone a bit nuts up here because we're missing the 3 screws.
That's the reason for all the everything that's wrong in the universe, those screws.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that one is just lovely, so I like that one too. Okay, so now on to the tweets that you have chosen. I know it is hard to select from all of the hilarious tweets that are out there. I know. I'm sorry for making people choose only 3, but you picked some good ones, and so here are your tweets chosen by you from other people. So the first up is hilarious Phil Man. So you have met him in real life, right?
Yeah. I knew Phil before Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys go back a ways, right? So that's pretty
cool.
Not
before Twitter happened, but I knew him before I was on Twitter.
Before you were a big Twitter hotshot. So yeah, Phil is really funny. Everyone go check him out. Phil Man with 2 N's on Twitter. And the tweet you sent goes like this. It's one of those back and forth tweets. So it's him and a priest speaking. So the priest says, "In the beginning, there was the word." And Phil says, "Capiscum." Priest, "No." Phil, "Tumescent gerund caliphate." "Stop trying to guess the word, maelstrom." That is great. So Phil just saying super weird words to this priest.
And the thing is, if you know Phil, you can completely imagine him saying the super weird words.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what, and Phil does some stand-up comedy as well, and actually a few of us went to see him do his show in January. So me and Tom, who's Trojan Sauce, and a couple of other people went to see him. But that's because one, as I said, I knew Phil before I knew about Twitter, and he's kind of the reason I got into Twitter. And
thank you, Phil.
Yeah. And second, because it's just a brilliant tweet, and it just, every time I read it, because I guess I imagine Phil saying the words.
Yeah, it's a lot better when you
makes
can
me laugh.
Imagine it in the voice of the person. And that's kind of part of this show, right? So you get to hear the voices of your favorite tweeters. You can hear their tweets in their voice. It does make it a little bit funnier. Well, Phil, great tweet. Love Phil on Twitter. Everyone follow him. Philman. So thank you for that. The second tweet that you sent is from our friend Willed the Beast at Flash Ember on Twitter. And his tweet is it's funny, so I'll try to read it. There's a lot going on. So this is after robots take over. Drones crash in the kitchen. Who betrayed me? The fridge starts laughing. But you were my favorite. So, a lot going on. Robots have taken over in this dystopian future. Wildebeest at his table, mouthful of ham. Who betrayed me? Fridge starts laughing. But you were my favorite. And it should be noted that he spells it Fabrit. Favorite. So you can really get the sense of the ham in the mouth. I think I might have missed that in the first read, but it's a great
I think that's
one.
why I love it. It's the way he's written it, so that you, in your head, you're imagining a wildebeest with a mouthful of food trying to talk to a fridge.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's great. Wildebeest, definitely one of the funny guys on Twitter. Definitely check him out.
And he was also my team captain for Battle Royale, which was nice as well.
Oh yeah, did you want to talk about that for a minute? It's like a huge competition within Twitter that happens every year.
Yeah, well, I never considered entering it before because in my head it was this massive kind of competition I didn't have a chance in, I guess. And then this year, which kind of leads on to the next tweet quite well, Rachel Mandick was one of the judges, and that kind of, I was like, do you know what, I quite want to, I'm going to give it a go just because she's involved. And I got to the final, so I was like, oh, okay.
Amazing. Congratulations for that.
It's quite hard work,
it is.
But they do it so well. And Ray and Sam, who do it every year, so that's Sir Eviscerate and AK Fatman.
Right.
And they put so much work into it. And Sam's actually in Melbourne in Australia, so he's up at really weird times trying to get all the rounds done, because most of the people are obviously in, most of them are in the States, I think. And it's one of those things that it's nice to do because it sparks your creativity a bit. And sometimes when you're on a bit of a time scale, you come up with things you wouldn't normally think about. So that was really good. I mean, I was kind of up against it because this was in December, and I finished my last entry for the final round, sat in the corner of a bar because it was our work Christmas do, which I'd organised. So I was still collecting money from people, sat in the corner, surrounded by coats, trying to write the last entry. Yeah.
That's really funny.
But it's really good. I'd say anything like that, if you like writing and doing stuff on Twitter, anything like that, just enter. I mean, it doesn't really matter when you get anywhere, but it's just quite good to sometimes have the prompts, and it gives you, makes your brain work a bit and stuff you wouldn't normally think about. Yeah,
and anybody can enter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anybody can enter. All the listeners, every single person. You're qualified to enter. Just follow Sir Eviscerate and AKA _Fatman, I believe. And they will tweet about it when it comes up for this year. So keep your eyes posted, peeled, potatoed, and follow those guys if you're interested in that, which it seems pretty cool. So basically they give you prompts, and everyone writes and submits tweets in a battle royale style, and it's like elimination, and then you made it to the finals, right? That's awesome. Woo! Okay, so yes, this does tie in nicely to the very next tweet that you have sent in. It is from our friend Rochelle Mandick, mentioned before, at Rochelle, that's RACHELLE _MANDIK on Twitter. And her tweets are very funny, also sometimes surreal and abstract, and I love it. And the tweet that you selected was a diss. I brought a glue gun to a knife fight. Those knives aren't going anywhere. So that's just a great example of her style of humor. Sort of like off the wall, but great.
So it's kind of that. She's one of the first people I followed when I started in weird Twitter. It was her and her husband Pete and Cat's Dogma and Bat Karen.
Great. Shout out to all those people. Give them a follow.
And yes. But so it's because I love her, how she writes things, and her sense of humor, and again, she's a copywriter by trade, I think, so she's very good at the words.
Very good.
And it's also kind of because I can only pick 3. It's representative of all these amazingly strong and open-minded, I guess, female tweeters that I've met kind of through doing this. So you've got Rachel, and you've got Karen and Katz, and then you've got Sky, I'm Space Girl, and Sarah Shockey and Mel Castle, and kind of all these wonderful women that I've met or read their stuff through Twitter, and they're brilliant. I find them quite inspiring. A lot of them, they kind of really know who they are, and they're not not bothered, I guess, by some of the reactions they get. They're just going to tweet what they want to tweet and say what they want to say, and what amuses them, and it doesn't, they're not worried about how they come across, I guess.
All right, now we get into the questions. Here come the questions. I should have like a sound effect for that. What do you think? Like a siren or?
Yeah, some sort of, I don't know, quizzical noise maybe.
Oh, a quizzical noise.
I don't know what that would sound like.
I think you're thinking of like the Jeopardy theme.
Something like that. We don't really have Jeopardy over here, but yeah, something like that.
You haven't. You have a ton of weird quiz shows, though, right? Your TV has a ton of super weird quiz shows and like panel shows. Like everything's a panel show.
We have a lot of comedy panel shows.
I don't know why we don't have a lot of comedy panel shows here in North America, Canada, because they're pretty funny, right? You just get a bunch of comedians out there. They're all just riffing on stuff.
Yeah, they're pretty good, most of them. But then I don't know, we don't have like Saturday Night Live. We don't really have anything of that kind of format over here. So
not much sketch comedy.
No, we have sketch comedy shows, but they're not live. They're not like that. They're pre-recorded in the
single
setting.
Cam.
Yeah.
Pre-taped sketches.
So and then we have chat shows. So it's a bit more separate, I guess.
Who's your favorite chat show host?
I quite like Graham Norton.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say it. He's great.
Yeah, he's quite good. But he used to live near. I used to work in a place called Canary Wharf in London, which is where it's a lot of the towers. There's a lot of bank space there. So we basically have the city,
right,
which is a financial district, and then Canary Wharf, which is like the spin-off financial district.
Financial district. Junior.
And he lived somewhere on the Isle of Dogs, which is the bit that sticks out into the Thames, the Canary Wharf song. Because people used to bump into him every now and then walking around Waitrose in like his tracksuit bottoms.
Great Graham Norton anecdote. Check him out on what channel? Sky TV? BBC?
I don't know what it is for you. It's the BBC One for me.
BBC One, for sure. That's the easiest one, right? When you turn on your TV, it automatically turns to that. I
don't actually have a TV, but yeah.
Oh, well, la-dee-da. So much better than all the rest of us.
I have iPlayer. It's fine.
Okay, it's fine. You're still consuming media, as long as you're still consuming media. Okay, so now we play the song, the quizzical question song, ba-ba-ba, and we get into the questions. So the first question, submitted by our friend, the beloved Malt Skull, at malt_skull. He asks, what does being posh entail? Because you're obviously very posh.
Oh, I love malt. So this is interesting, actually, because when I was in university, we decided that there were 2 things that sometimes seem the same. And one is posh and one is rich. And all my friends at uni kept saying how posh I was. And I kept saying, well, no, I'm not. I mean, I grew up in Oxfordshire, but I grew up in a terraced house. We didn't have a lot of money. I'm not really that posh. And then as a guy I went to uni with called Ed, who lived down in Surrey and had a massive house, and told us a story once about how his mum lost her wedding ring. And so they just turned on the floodlights. We were like, what? And he's got this massive floodlit garden and all this stuff. But he didn't sound posh. So my uni friends decided that Ed was rich and I was posh. So despite the fact that I had no money. Yeah. And I tried to dispute this until one New Year, in fact, the first New Year that I was in uni, 2 of my friends came down to Oxfordshire to spend New Year with me. And the first thing my mother did when they came in was offer them Perrier water.
Ah, classy.
Yeah. It's like, right, well, that's it. There's no point denying it anymore.
Sparkling.
Yeah, sparkling. Oh. And my mother now has a fridge full of champagne and hummus and stuff.
Nice.
And one year it was going to be a lot of snow around Christmas, and she was panic buying smoked salmon.
So there is an element of posh, let's say.
Yes, I think so. I think my mother and I are just terribly middle class. We're not really.
But you're striving. You're striving, right? Like you're trying to make your experience just a little bit more posh whenever you can. Anything sparkling, even if it's water. Things like,
yeah. So there's a lot of where I grew up. There's a lot of posh, which is all old money. So it's just families who've been,
yes,
posh forever.
So what are some
things?
So
they all talk a certain way, and they go to hennas and watch the regatta and shop in Jack Wills.
Do they go to the Derby? That's the horse race, right? When you
you mean Ascot, darling?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. And they wear hats.
They do that and wear big hats. Yes, and the sort of people who. The thing is, because I have old money, it means I have a lot of very old things. But because they never, they're always very good things. They never have to buy new things, and therefore they still have a lot of money. Whereas when you don't have much money, you have to buy things that aren't very good, so they don't last. So then you have to buy new things again, and then you don't have any money.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But I don't know. I think probably the poshest, most first world problems incident my mum and I ever had was sometimes we spend Christmas on our own, just the two of us now, because my brother has a wife and now a baby, and is sometimes spends Christmas with her family. And so mum and I, we have a ball. We just stay in our pajamas and get drunk and watch Doctor Who.
Nice.
But we had one Boxing Day where my mum was in a panic because we were making cosmopolitans and we'd almost run out of Cointreau and no shops were open.
Oh no.
That is my definition of first world problem.
Yes, definitely.
Whatever shall we do?
And you never know with the Cointreau. You never know, right? Because you use just a little bit of it. So
yeah.
We hope that answers your question, Malt. And friend of the show, Malt, will be appearing on a future episode.
Hurrah.
Very excited to have him on. Okay, so now next question was submitted by Barbara Kennedy. At Barbara K Piano on Twitter. So I think she really had to think long and hard about what to ask you. I guess this is a close friend of yours.
So Barbara and I have known each other since secondary school. So since we were about 13. So we grew up together and we lived together when I first moved to London 7 years ago. And so she's one of my best and oldest friends.
Old friend. Very old friend. Great. So she just tweeted, what to ask. Like has a question, but she's teasing us with it. She didn't ask a question. But then eventually she did ask two super inside joke questions. So the first question from Barbara Kennedy, what should you do when you are no longer able to fight this feeling? Obviously, that's some sort of joke.
It's time to get the ship into the shore. Then
there you go.
Yep.
You have it, Barbara. Time to get the ship into the shore is the answer to that. And I guess that's referencing the classic REO Speedwagon song. Is that the right band? I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Classic. Everyone, check out REO Speedwagon. All right. So she asked another super inside joke question. Was Ethelred the Unready directly responsible for the French Revolution? Two people laughing hysterically right now. One of them is you, and one of them is listening. Shout out to Barbara.
No, he didn't see it coming.
Just take a moment, compose yourself. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Okay, I hadn't seen those two. They were completely surprised. Okay, that's fine.
It seems like it's a yes or no question. Was Ethelred the Unready directly responsible for the French Revolution? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward question.
Well, no, I mean, there's a lot going on. It's hard to tell.
So no real answer on that one. Just a lot of fun laughs.
Oh, dear. I prepared for the axe murderer one. I haven't seen those two.
No, I had to hit you with the questions that she direct messaged. Okay.
Oh,
great.
Sneaky.
Super sneaky. That's what friends are for, right? It's getting laughed out of their other friends on podcasts.
Yeah,
So, other questions coming from our friend Space Cat at Catstronomical. She asks, of all the places you've traveled, which would you most recommend to others? And what is your funniest travel story? It's a 2-part follow-up question. It's a great question. Catstronomical, thank you for submitting the questions. Always very, very good questions.
Well, so I've not travelled as much as I'd like to. I'm trying to, kind of make that better as I go on. So I've got a few places to travel this year. So, and I think obviously I've been to a very, very tiny bit of Canada, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Canada.
And I've done bits of the US, and I loved New York and I loved Chicago. But I think probably the best place, the place I recommend to everyone else, is Italy. And I've been there for a week, and I was mostly in Rome and did Naples and Pompeii, but it's just brilliant. Rome is like a giant museum.
Yeah.
Because it's got so much history and it's so interesting. There's got the main tourist attractions, and then there's other bits and pieces that, if you know they're there, you can go and see. And it's well worth it. That there's an Etruscan museum a little further out, and the Etruscans were around before the Romans, and are very interesting to me because they were ostracized basically by their peers, so by the Greeks and the Romans, for two things: for their love of banqueting and the freedom they allowed their women. So sound like my type of people, the Etruscans.
They sound like they were woke. Ancient woke folk.
They were woke. But so you've got all that, and then you've got the Italian kind of pace of life, which is so laid back, and you can just spend hours kind of sitting in squares eating amazing fresh pasta, and the coffee's good, the wine's good, the pasta and the pizza is incredible. It's just lovely. So
it's Italy. Was there one specific thing that really knocked your socks off? That Etruscan museum, I know you mentioned, but is there another secret off the beaten path exhibit that you saw, or like a place that you went?
Not off the beaten track, really. But as I said, we did spend a day going around Pompeii,
right?
Which is amazing. And I wore sandals, which was a stupid idea because obviously it's going to be dusty.
Travel tip: don't wear sandals to Pompeii.
Covered in volcanic ash, not a good place for sandals. But it's amazing the amount that you can see, and you can still see the paintings on the walls, and the roads. You can still see the grooves that cartwheels had, rubbed into the roads. And they have pavements, and I know that sounds like a stupid thing to be excited about. But roads here, we didn't have pavements until we had cars. Everyone just walked in the road, and you can see they have these raised walkways either side of the road, and they have every now and then there are 3 stepping stones to get across the road, which are spaced out so that the wheels of the carts will go in between them.
Brilliant. Ancient civilizations really figuring it out.
Exactly. But it's if you're there, that's so worth a visit. I mean, it's exhausting.
Right. And you don't want to wear sandals.
It's a lot of walking.
And a lot of walking, but really eye-opening, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It really doesn't disappoint because, you hear quite a lot about it.
Mm-hmm. Because you're actually seeing like the people like frozen in time, right? That's the thing. Yeah. The volcano went off. Vesuvius, was it?
Yeah, it's Vesuvius.
And
which is obviously still there, but not active. So.
Thank goodness. Okay, so that answers part 1. That's the place where you would most recommend to others. Now, what's your funniest travel story?
I was trying to think about this. I've had kind of little amusing anecdotes, but nothing particularly hilarious far.
That's what we're looking for, just something cute and quick. Amusing anecdote. A music anecdote would be perfect.
Okay, well, I do 2 short ones because they're not that funny. But I visited Chicago and I stayed with Mel Castle and her boyfriend. And she has a crazy dog called Watson who's lovely but nuts. And I came home one day and Mel, bless her, was so apologetic, but he had eaten the insole of one of my shoes.
Oh, no.
Not the shoe, Just the insole.
Okay.
He pulled the insole out and eaten it.
Yeah, that's the good part anyway.
And the other one is just I met up with our friend Annie in Seattle.
Shout out to Notabini.
Yeah, and we were meeting some of the friends who lived in there, but Annie and I had never met in person before, but she'd come down from Vancouver, and I was really, really delayed on a flight from San Francisco. I ended up sitting in the airport for 10 hours because the flight was cancelled, and they got me in another one, and then, so by the time I got to the hotel in Seattle, it was like gone midnight, and I got to the room, I banged on the door, and Annie, before she opened the door or said anything, shouted through the door at me, "I'm not wearing any pants." First thing I ever heard her say.
First thing out, but not like hello. Normally it's hello, but not wearing any pants is a great first introduction to Annie, who obviously also we're gonna get on the show.
Excellent.
We'll get her side of the story where she yelled, "I'm not wearing any pants." Okay, well those are lovely little anecdotes. Thank you, Catstronomical, for those tweets. So for the final thing, you say that any song can be about pizza?
Yeah, if you want it enough, any song's about pizza.
So you have to believe, like you have to really believe, that it's about pizza, and then what, the lyrics will start making sense in different ways?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can just change the lyrics slightly. So, you've got Elton John's anchovy seems to be the hardest word.
Okay.
See? About pizza.
It's about pizza for sure. That is about pizza. Definitely. And if anyone actually knows any real songs about pizza, send them to Bex at Bexdora on Twitter. She'd love to get them.
I'll make a playlist. It'll be great.
Awesome. So I think that basically brings us to nears about the end of the show. Couple of items here. You have recommended a couple of things for people to check that you think people should check out. So you've recommended the book Animal, the Autobiography of a Female Body by Sarah Pascoe. So why do you like this book?
So Sarah Pascoe is a comedian, a British comedian, and she's actually from about half a mile down the road from where I live at the moment. And she wrote this book. She said when she started to gig as a comedian, she was always introduced as a female comedian.
Yes.
And she was like, no other jobs do that. You don't get introduced as, she's a female teacher or a female engineer or, a female banker.
Double standard for sure.
Yeah. So she started to really think about it and what that meant. And she did a lot of research into, I guess, genetically what it means to be female and mating habits, centuries ago, and what society has decreed that we should be. And it's just a very interesting book about how we are and how religion and society have constricted us, I guess, as women.
Yes.
It's a very good book for a woman to read. I'd say it's good for men as well, because there's a lot of biological stuff in there as well, and research into historically why we pair bond, why we need a mate. And it's stuff like, because actually animals don't need a man to be around after they've given birth, because if you look at even monkeys, their young can cling on straight away, whereas our babies are helpless, and that's because we have to give birth to them before they're fully formed, because our heads got too big, because our brains got too big, and therefore we couldn't give birth to them at the right time anymore. And because of that, the baby's helpless. We can't do everything, so therefore we need to pair bond. And
evolution.
So it goes from that to societal attitudes and everything. So it's a very good book, and she's really funny as well.
Yeah,
so it means it's quite amusing
for those books that really teach you, but they're also really interesting to read because they're funny. Everyone, you can follow Sarah Pascoe on Twitter at Sarah Pascoe, and Animal, the Autobiography of a Female Body, is on bookshelves now. A couple other things you recommended. For audio, you recommend John Finnemore's Souvenir Program, Series 6. So is this like a radio show, or?
It's a radio sketch show.
Ah, okay.
So John Finnemore used to write, you can follow him on Twitter as well, actually. He used to write for Mitchell and Webb,
Okay,
who I don't know
British,
if you have over there, but
British like duo, right?
yeah. So it's a similar kind of slightly surreal comedy to that, but he's just so funny. And there's 6 series of that, and that's the latest one. But I kind of think the comedy you see around on the people we're kind of involved with on Twitter, I just think if you like that, you'll really like his sketch comedy. And there's some things. I mean, me and my brother sometimes communicate in quotes from comedians that we both know.
Yeah.
And I introduced my brother to this, and there's a brilliant one where, on, I don't know if you guys have it, but here we have, you'll have a certain type of program on a channel that's sponsored by some kind of product. So like the one here, we have a lot of crime shows on in the afternoon on ITV3, and they're all sponsored by a river cruise company. So before and at the beginning and end of every ad break, you have this cruise company, and they're trying to fit it in, to make it work with the type of program it's sponsoring.
Right.
So the one that John Finnemore does is a ice cream company, and I can't remember the name of it now, so this isn't going to be very good. But it's something like the adverts they have, and they're sponsoring crime shows or murder mysteries. That's it. And it's something like, McNally's ice cream, stabbingly delicious. But the point that me and my brother know every now and then just say stabbingly delicious things for no reason.
Stabbingly delicious is fun to say. Yeah, so everyone go check out John Finnemore's Souvenir Program Series 6. I will have a link in the show notes to all of these items.
Excellent. He's also done like a comedy serial called Cabin Pressure, which has Benedict Cumberbatch in it as well.
Oh,
that's another radio
that's
one.
A big name.
Yeah.
Any Benedict Cumberbatch fans, check it out. Cabin Pressure. John Finnemore, at John Finnemore on Twitter. And great recommend for a film, pretty recent, but very good film. Guardians of the Galaxy. Just a fun superhero romp, right?
Yeah, I don't understand how people don't like this film.
Yeah, just a classic popcorn flick, just a feel-good Marvel movie, right? And Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in theaters now.
It is. I haven't seen it yet.
Unless you're listening to this much after.
No, it came out on Thursday, I think. 28th it came out.
Yeah, of this year. But what if someone's listening to this 10 years from now? Then it's
that's true.
Right, it's not in theaters anymore. But check it out on whatever format you get things on.
Goodness,
in the future,
be anything.
Right? I'm talking to you, future guy.
On the back of their eyes. No.
Yeah, just check for it on RetinaViz. So huge thank you, Bex. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you're one of the first friends of the show. There is no podcast as we speak, but it will be coming out very soon in our time. Not you, future guy. It's already out. But thank you so much. At Bex Dora on Twitter. Everyone give her a follow. She's got great funny jokes. She's got fun poems and some serious writing and great links to good reads too. You have a great timeline. Love talking to you in the DMs all the time. So just thank you very much. Any shout-outs you want to give just while we wrap it up?
Oh, gosh. What, any more?
Yeah, I know. This is a name-droppy podcast where we drop names. We drop handles all the time. Don't apologize. That's what it's for. We want everybody to follow all these people and check out all the things. So the more stuff we can throw at the wall, something will stick.
Okay. Well, I think I've done most of my my favorite people already. So just
shout out to your mom, maybe? Your mom? I mean, we already mentioned her, but just
shout my mum. Yeah,
shout
my
out.
Mum.
Yeah.
Hi, Mum.
There you go. And my mom, too. Yeah, mom and dad.
Yeah,
shout out.
Steven's mum.
Great. Thanks, Bex. Awesome.
Thank you.
So if there's nothing else, then we will wrap it up by playing this theme. And we say goodbye. And thank you for listening to Friends of the Show. Thank you, Bex. And you can say bye to all the listeners.
Bye, listeners.
Bye. Thanks for stopping by. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Bex Dora from Twitter. And I want to thank you for listening. Thanks to everyone who is interacting and supporting the show. Thank you so much. So I'd love to hear from you. Send me a note at feedback@stephenwskinner.com or contact me through my website, stephenwskinner.com. I have lots of great guests lined up, so check back every Monday for a new episode. Next week's episode is a great one. I have a ton of fun with my pal Will at Upside Down Trash on Twitter, so be sure not to miss it. Please subscribe to the show if you like. Visit stephenwskinner.com. It's got all the links and the show notes. Follow me on Twitter at SkinnerSteven, and send me a tweet if you listened all the way to the end of the show that this is. Thank you again so much for listening, and have a good one.